Good evening, and welcome to pezliz. On Twitch, we're live, and on YouTube, this is, of course, a recorded video. This is the second in a series of introducing our community to other people, and in this case, designers. So, a few, like I guess a month or so ago, someone named Bearded Printer suddenly appeared in my Twitch streams. Um, he was absolutely hilarious, and so the second that we kind of got to know him, at least in chat, I said, "Oh, we need to meet you. Like, we need to have a formal introduction." I've seen lots of your models and things on all different platforms, specifically on Thangs, and now we get to meet you. So everybody, this is Eric, aka Bearded Printer.
Yep, nice to meet you. Nice to see you.
So tell us a little bit, like, how did you actually get started in all this? What's your origin story?
I'll try to keep it brief. My origin story. So I've actually been printing for roughly 7 years now, but I knew nothing about the printing community. I want to say, so that I'm a tinkerer. I like to make stuff, woodworking, whatever. And at one point I thought, well, I need to be able to manufacture my own custom parts, adapters, stuff that I couldn't have from some other manufacturer. And so I thought I should get a printer. But I'm extremely cheap and do everything myself. So naturally, at the time, I looked for the cheapest printer I could find, and I purchased an ANET A8. And for those who don't know, it's a fire starter. You don't want one. If you have one, don't use it. I didn't know this.
Yeah, that printer is fire.
Yes, it literally has burned down houses. So I wasn't aware of this. And when I ordered it, did I look up any tutorials on YouTube? No. Did I look up any blogs or any reviews about anything? No. I just thought, I'll just do it myself. Whatever. I got it set up, and as soon as I had it all built, I sent it. Didn't even level the bed. I was like, let's see if this works. I hit go, and it immediately dug into the bed. And at that point, I was like, something's wrong. And then at that point, that's what started my journey into 3D printing. And I used Tinkercad initially when I designed my parts, and they were usually just simple designs. But I was printing on and off for about 6 years, and it wasn't until last year that I was just fed up with the printer. I'd been fixing it, and you know, when something would break, I would Google, you know, common solutions to it and whatnot. But even throughout those 6 years, I never watched any YouTube videos about 3D printing. I'm sure videos would come up that had 3D printing in it. Like I remember seeing 3D printing nerd, you know, Joel's videos about creating that RC car that's like super blown up. I remember seeing those, but I never said to myself, I want to watch everything 3D printing. So I didn't know about it. So last year I got fed up with it, and I was like, I'm done. And then shortly after, Linus Tech Tips did a short circuit on the Elegoo Neptune 4 Pro. And as soon as he said filament runout sensor, I was like, I need that. I need that. And so I was like, I wonder what printers are out. I didn't even know Bamboo Lab existed at this point.
Yeah.
And so I started doing research. I learned about Soval. I knew Creality existed because of all the Ender 3s. I knew Prusa existed, but I didn't know about Bamboo Lab or any of the other big ones out there. And so I do all this research, and eventually I do get the Neptune 4 Pro, and I do the initial calibrations. And at this point, I am watching YouTube videos about reviews and the setup and whatnot. So I got a little bit smarter. So I do all the initial setup with the bed mesh and the leveling and the Z offset. And I hit print on it's the Buddha statue that they just gave a file.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the minute it started, my jaw dropped and my eyes widened twice their size. And I'm just like, I'm like in space age, like this is amazing. It's a $300 printer, and I'm just blown away. And I'm like, this is awesome. And what does anyone say when a high quality print comes off their bed the first time? I want to sell this. Now, me being the cheapo that I am, I didn't want to pay the licensing to sell models. And so that's what got me into really wanting to design stuff to sell, because I'm a cheapo. So I'm like, I don't want to buy licensing, so I'll just design stuff myself. And my initial designs were pretty sad, I'll admit. But they have improved over the last year that I've been designing. So yeah, kind of a, awesome. I tried to condense that as much as possible.
So are you actually selling models, or did you explain what you're doing with that?
Initially I was selling models. It wasn't very lucrative, and I started on Etsy. I also started a website to sell models, and I would sell some here and there, but I found that it wasn't for me. And what actually convinced me to more sell the files for people to print models is fangs. So I started wanting to sell my models, and on printables, I didn't have enough followers to be able to sell anything on there yet. Yeah, to have a club and to sell stuff. So I got onto Things, and I uploaded a bunch of stuff, and I didn't even know about the leagues on Things. I didn't even know about the leagues. But I uploaded my water dragon, my bone dragon, my various dragons, and a week goes by, and I won for the first time one of the leagues in the articulated category, and I thought it was a scam. I saw the email saying, "You're a winner," and what does anyone do immediately after they see that? Delete. And as soon as I hit the delete, I saw in the body Fangs, and I was like, wait a minute, Fangs? So I look at the email, and it doesn't tell me to follow this link or anything. It just says, to get your winnings, make sure you have all these settings. And so I made sure I go to Fangs, not following any links in the email just to be safe. And I make sure it's all set. And I get my gift cards, and I'm like, this is a thing. Huh. And so that's what started my journey into more branching out into selling STL files instead of selling actual prints. And it got to the point where I didn't want to sell prints anymore, because it was a lot more labor intensive making sure enough was printed, or I don't know. So
yeah, I really take my hat off to the people that go to those craft fairs and markets and do all of that stuff. They actually, they're out there selling their prints, and they also have to manage all the different memberships and inventory, and
it's hard. It's a lot of work. Yeah, so I did 2 events. And the 2 events that I did were more because I just wanted to experience it. It wasn't something where I wanted to make a lot of money. I just wanted to be like, hey, I wonder what it's like. The first one was pretty good, but it rained all day, and it was outside, and it was an outside event. And so it wasn't that great. The second one I did, it was in the middle of July, outside again. It was over 100 degrees the whole day, and I was out there for 12, 13 hours. It was I had to be there from 12 till 9, and I had to be there at 10 to set up, and then I had to take down. And after that, I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing that anymore. That's a lot of work. So I think I added up what I made that day and the amount of hours I put in. I was probably making about $17 an hour doing that. So it wasn't worth it for me.
So that shift to being a designer, you mentioned, we were talking a little bit, I've printed a few of your things. So I think one of the first models that I saw of yours was the fat floppy dragon.
Yep.
And I thought that this was such a different way to do a fidgety, articulated. I mean, everyone knows that I keep my Memetics Snapflex is here all the time. It's on my desk. Yep. It's my little. I fidget, and so. But this one is so neat because it's sort of, you sort of take the concept of the chainmail. It's similar to chainmail, but it's just, it's such a neat neat texture and stuff. And I didn't print the flounder yet, but that's also a fun one. So
Yeah.
yeah, how did you come to do models like this? And of course, the other thing I have here, and you have a better version because I haven't finished putting this together yet. Your Dungeons and Dragons tomes. What's the process for those things, and how did you come to decide to do those?
So it's all kind of progressive. Before I designed my first dragon, I was doing simple articulated stuff. Like I made this pineapple. This is one of my first designs. It's kind of the silly design. So I liked the articulated designs. And after designing for a little bit, I kept looking at the dragons and kept thinking, I wonder if I can do that. I bet I could do that. And so I took a crack at it, and the water dragon is my first dragon. And so it's kind of progressed from there, where it's constantly me asking, I wonder if I can do that, and then take a crack at it. STL Flicks came out with a lot of, I want to call it mesh articulation, but I don't know those dragons. Those are the water dragons. I don't know
for YouTube people, the links will be in the description.
Yep.
So people will get to access all these different models.
Yeah. So at one point, my wife gives me a lot of good suggestions on what to make, and she mentioned a flounder, and I thought, I bet I could make that. STL Flakes has come out with some similar articulated type stuff in the past, and I think it's super awesome. And so I kind of was inspired by that type of articulation, and I wonder if I could do that too. And so that's when the flounder came about, and this is the flounder for those who aren't aware. So it's an adorable flounder.
As flounders go, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I actually Googled cute flounder just for inspiration on how to make a cute face on a flounder, and not a lot of good results came up. Flounders are not cute. If you look at a flounder, they're not that cute. So to make a flounder cute it took some effort and some creativity.
Yeah, and then of course you've got other dragons like this absolutely adorable baby dragon. So this is a different style too. With the wings actually glue on separately, and it's just a little bit of articulation. So this is kind of inspired, like you said, you wanted to make your own models, but also, so how do you find, how long have you been designing?
I started designing when I got my Neptune 4 Pro at the end of August last year. So about a year and a couple months.
So you're definitely starting to develop. You're developing your own style and things that you prefer, and I think it's fantastic. So we've got all these cute fun things, and then you come out and surprise everyone with some really cool decorative designs. So this has clementines in it, but this is actually a planter, and this is different from a lot of planters I've seen because you actually used magnets. And I'll get my magnet. I'm such a pro streamer here. Let's grab this so I can. There, I had to twist. I forgot. So this actually has a drain in it. So if you have a plant, a lot of people will put a pot inside something like this, just like you would with anything decorative. But you do have the ability to. This not only it's decorative and functional, so you have a little bit of a drain here. So this is a really neat model. And then we started talking a little bit during the stream. You've got really cool stuff like the Dungeons and Dragons tomes. So what drew you to doing things like that? And tell us that story.
Well, so a few months ago, a friend reached out to me, and they had an idea to create this book that had storage containers in it that she could give to her family for Christmas. But she also wanted it to be something like with D&D and to have various different types of storage containers. And my initial thought went to, Clock Spring actually has a tome that he's created. And I was like, well, there's already something like that. Why don't you just go here? But with the specifications she gave me, it had to be really large to hold a lot of stuff. And so that's when I started designing the incredibly large Dungeon Master tome. And the hinge design was kind of interesting because, I initially thought, well, I could do a print in place design kind of like Clockspring did, but you got it.
Yes.
Yeah. So the hinge mechanism is because I ultimately determined that I wanted the binding of the book to be curved, which meant I couldn't print it on the binding side. Yeah. So I had to print it so you would have to assemble it, and it makes it look nice to have it curved like that. And I didn't want the hinge to be on the front because with the plastic, it wouldn't look nearly as nice. So yeah, I incorporate magnets in a lot of those types of designs, kind of also inspired by Clockspring because he also does that. So I do enjoy implementing magnets, but that's kind of how the tome came about. And it took me like 2 or 3 weeks to prototype that hinge just because I had to. So if you look at a cupboard and how that opens, it's flat against the I want to say carcass, but I can't remember the exact term. But when you open it, the back of it doesn't rub against it. And I wanted to do something similar. And so I had to Google how those work. But if you Google how cupboard hinges work, all that comes up is instructions on how to install a cupboard hinge. So it took a bit of research and I even went to my own cupboards to kind of see if I could see how it worked, but it would get too dark before I could see. So eventually I figured it out. So it was a fun journey figuring that out.
Awesome. And so I have suggested this, and a few other people suggested it. So hopefully this is something. What are your thoughts on community suggestions? My suggestion for this: I am not going to be putting any Dungeons and Dragons anything in here. I'm not. Right. That's not my thing. But this is a beautiful, like storage box, jewelry box, whatnot. So I'm really interested in making this into a project. But I think it would be really cool to have like a design that's like. I saw you have a tree now. So people could sort of integrate, but another, like, these are where we have all our ideas. Like, you could even have an insert where someone could have a Hue Forged image or a photograph or something. There's lots of ideas.
I believe I've included, I can't remember if I have or not. I'll have to double check, but I have blank canvas ones. Mm-hmm. So anyone could take it and remix it and add their own. So I can make sure that that's up and has the license to have people be able to remix, so people can, buy the tome, but if they want a different cover, they can go download a free cover with the design of their choice on it. So, yeah. And my kids use them for toy cars, Matchbox cars and stuff.
Well, you'll have to put some, you'll have to print some Fix 'em Dude vehicles and put those in too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm sure my kids would love those. I got to download some of those.
My Mary Poppins desk. Anyway.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Clockspring. Are there any other designers? Like, before we started, you were saying that as soon as you see someone that's doing something interesting or that's getting highlighted, you're following them. So who is inspiring you, and what's that process of sort of entering this aspect of the community?
That's a good question. So some of the people I'm following, I have Maker Viking, Built Over Bot, 3D Print Bunny, Little Top. I have a lot of those. If they're the top of the leagues and they're doing interesting things, I'll follow them because I want to see what they're doing. And sometimes it'll give me inspiration like, oh, that's a great idea. I bet I can incorporate that type of design over here and build something new. And sometimes I'll see some kind of mechanism of how something opens and be intrigued. So I have quite a few people. I have about 28 people that I'm following, and it's growing on things.
Oh, you need to follow more than 28. I think I follow like 11 people. So yes.
It's
Well, it's
growing.
funny, like even people, I mean, we're live on Twitch, even in chat, we've got a bazillion designers here, which is really cool. I I
That's awesome.
I find myself every day I feel really lucky and also inspired by all of these different designers, and it's really interesting because of course um we have all different types of personalities and all different kinds of people. So you have not yet been to a 3D printing event.
Nope,
So
not yet.
this you've only been exposed to this sort of virtual world where with some streamers, and then you'll see a couple people pop up on YouTube channels and be featured and things like that. So you are planning to go to you're saying you're planning to go to Rocky Mountain Rep Festival?
Yeah, yeah. I haven't bought tickets yet, but I assume I have to buy them soon. But yeah, it's very recent that I've started like delving deep into the community, realizing there are so many creators out there. So I realize how ignorant I am since I've started to designing, that I know nothing about the community. So
Well, there's a lot, like I said, there's definitely a lot of people out there, a lot to learn. And it's really neat because we've got this, because a lot of the time you actually use your face in your logo, but a lot of people it's just some sort of logo and you're like, who is this person? And that's one of the reasons, like I said, I'm starting to do this interview series, because people didn't know who Kickhiln was. And I think we're still in a small enough space where this world can be opened even wider, and I
yeah,
think the more that people get to know each other, that I think the more interesting things can be. I'll give you an example. Fix'em Dude and Bugman have never met before. They just know each other, on the internet. But they've done a lot of collaborations. They've throw designs back and forth to each other and get feedback and everything. Who would your dream collab be with at this point?
oh, that's a good question. Um, give me a minute. So my dream collab. That's a great question. I would have to say, I don't know. I like a lot of the stuff that 3D Print Bunny does. She does a lot of unique designs. That's not like a lot of people will design something that's similar to what other people are doing. But I feel like she always designs something very unique, and
Yes.
and I love the string art she does. So,
Yes.
so I think
I'm
she does
actually
great
wearing,
stuff for
yeah,
sure.
the string
Oh
art
yeah,
earrings. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So I'd have to go with 3D Print Bunny for sure.
Yeah. I'd love to, like, she's one of those people where when I met her, I was really lucky to get to meet her. She was at 2 events this year. I said, I want to crawl into, I want, what goes on in your brain? And she's like, I don't know. She's like, she actually said, I don't know. She says, I have these thoughts in my head and then these things happen and that's just
It
how it
just
is.
happens. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
She was playing with Arachne before Arachne was like a setting that people used in their slicers, with the string art and different things. And I dare to say that she has like revolutionized a lot of design, because
Yep.
she challenges, like, that's the not just the string art, but she does all sorts of other things. And then there's all sorts of really interesting designers, and I'm finding that a lot of the coolest designers that I've been discovering are females from Australia. We've got Cyanide Sugar, we've got 3D Print Bunny, we've got Sparky Face. So I'm definitely going to have to like go deeper into that. But yeah, there's some really interesting people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we sort of talked about your background, like how you had, of course, the fiery printer. What are you printing with now? For the most
part? You'll see behind me I have an X1 Carbon. That's my main. I have an A1 combo that's behind it, and then I have an A1 Mini that's over there. You can't see it in the camera, but it's over there. And then right next to me is a Elegoo Neptune 4 Pro. The Elegoo, the Neptune 4 Pro, I usually bust out last, It's still a really good printer, but it's still a little bit more maintenance than a bamboo printer. So if I want something that I just want something done, I'll usually just go to a bamboo.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So what is your go-to prototype printer?
Excuse me. Sorry, I had a cold last week. I'm still recovering. My prototype printer is usually the X1 Carbon because it's fast, and it just pumps them out. And usually I'll just be using one printer at a time because if I'm prototyping something, I want to make sure it comes out before I just print something of everything. So I'll usually just use one printer, and then when I have it down and I need to print everything, then I'll just enlist all of my printers to get stuff done. They all are pretty good with similar tolerances, so I don't have a mismatch of tolerances there.
Excellent. Do I see multi-board behind you? Or is that multi-board behind you, or what's the organization back there?
Are you looking at this stuff?
You're on the wall there. I'm trying to see.
So back here I have a cube. It's a cubicle.
Okay.
So I just have a bunch of cupboards over here. Is that what you're referring to?
The honeycomb.
Is it the honeycomb printer
wall? Okay.
Yeah. So nice. I do have a honeycomb wall that there's an adapter that hooks it to the side of the X1 Carbon. I also have one right here above my monitors here as well.
I don't see a rep rack.
I do. I have a makeshift rep rack. So one of the first designs that I made with my Elegoo Neptune 4 Pro is a similar rep rack design. I designed these brackets that'll hold this tubing that I already had. I don't know if it's the same size that the rep rack system uses.
It's
but
EMT conduit, and it's like, what is it? I think we have.
Yeah, I don't know what size of conduit I'm using. I'm sure it's probably similar, but I didn't install a very big one. It's probably like only this. You can't see. It's probably only this long. And when I first got my printer, I thought I'm not going to get that many rolls of filament. Rookie mistake, by the way. If you're going to get a 3D printer, you need as many rip racks as Liz here.
Yes,
so
I've got
filled up quick.
And that, and overflow.
Yeah. So it filled up quick. I filled up all the spaces, and then I even had rolls stacked on top. And so I need to install more rip racks. This Black Friday, we're going to be looking for a good shelving system so I can have more 3D printers and shelving for filament and stuff. So we'll get that figured out, because otherwise you're looking at stuff like this with all the rolls just on the ground.
I feel your pain. So this started out as you're designing because you wanted to sell things at shows. Now you're realizing that you're designing so you can share the files, and it's taking over some space. How does your family feel about this, and where do you see this going?
So especially with my prototyping, I end up with a lot of versions of a similar model, and my kids love new stuff. There was a time when I would have something new printed, and every morning my son would come out of the room and he would just hand out his hand like, toy? Like he just knew there was going to be a new toy. And at one point we had so many in our living room that we just had to start throwing away or giving them to people. So sometimes we'll just post online on Facebook group or something and just say, hey, I have this stuff. If anyone wants it, just come grab it. Otherwise, I'm throwing it away. I used to cringe at throwing things away that I thought were functional, because that's my cheap side, that like, if it's functional, I have to keep it, almost like a hoarder. But it's gotten to the point where I'm having a shift of mentality where it's okay to throw it away so it doesn't take up so much space. So
I find, for me, as someone who prints all the time and actually has a show where I'm supposed to be printing, I just found around the corner from my house a lending library or a take me sort of library. So now I've been putting some prints in there. I also took 5 filament bags, full of fidgets and things, and then a whole other, like, Marshalls and Home Goods, they have those giant shopping bags, a giant shopping bag full of other prints.
Wow.
And my friend has over 500 trick-or-treaters, so
Oh
I was
yeah.
able to give those away. But for shows now, I sort of minimize what I bring, because I like to hand things out. So I do the earrings and like fidget cubes and some things like that. So I try, you're trying to do your best to like highlight different designers and print new things. But I'm really enjoying like you have like these big projects.
Yeah.
These are really fun things to give to someone, because there's a lot of printing involved. It showcases filament, but it's also like in French we say cadeau, like a gift. It is a gift. Like it's something that can have some function to it. That's not to say that people love dragons, people love fidgets. It's absolutely amazing what people are into. So that's also fun. But I think the joy of being able to share those things is it's pretty nice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we had a ton of trick-or-treaters, and I printed a bunch of Zao 3Ds models, just miniatures, and we were handing those out. And some of the kids that knew about 3D printing, they were just freaking out like, oh my gosh. And towards the end of the night, I was just kind of giving handfuls away because we had too many. And these teenagers came back to just say, hey, just wanted to say thank you. We love them. And I'm like, cool, have a couple more handfuls. So they got more. So it's great. It's great.
Yeah, Tech Cheaper was in chat. He actually had a kid write a thank you note for a dragon. So yeah, it was pretty cool. So
yeah, it means a lot to him.
Super fun. Yeah. So you're going to continue doing this, and like you said, you're going to do a little bit of renovation and build out this space. And
yes.
What do you think is next for design for you? What is something that maybe you've wanted to do, but it's a challenge, or what do you think you've challenged yourself with?
So the main challenge that I'm struggling with is I have a full-time job as a software engineer, and I come home and I have young children, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So if I come home and I'm just doing design when I get home, I'm not helping out at all with the family. And so I could easily get burned out. And in fact, I had to take last month off because I felt like I was getting burned out and I was struggling. But I have a list of things that I have a whiteboard right here, and my wife often writes suggestions on things I could design. But the future of design, what I want to focus on is little animals. So I love Zao 3D stuff, and I don't plan on recreating what they have created because they already have great stuff. But I figure if someone likes printing those animals, I also want to be a designer that comes out with these animals. So I'll probably be coming out with stuff like that, but also be coming out with more stuff like this, the mesh fidgety type things.
Yes.
So,
we have a certain hedgehog in chat who was super excited to print this, and he has been searching for a nice. He's very particular, so he does really appreciate your hedgehog. So this is sort of what you're going for, and I find that with this style of model, first of all, it doesn't scream "print me in silk," because as we know, like silk is beautiful. Silk is actually a very strong filament, but when you're looking at articulation and flexy and stuff like that, those things can get damaged. So
not great for small kids either, for sure. Yeah.
So these are these models I find, first of all, for someone who likes fidgeting, it's the texture, everything about it is just so neat. I like this, and this is a style that you are that you're taking on. And I'm really excited. And one thing that you should know by now, you now have also a whole panel of people that are more than willing to test print for you. Everyone that joins my streams, we have a whole community of people that are eager and excited. And not only will we test print things, we'll put them to the test. So
Yep.
that is,
That's good. Yeah, I need the honest feedback, honestly. When I
yeah,
was designing the master tome, I uploaded it and I had people in a Discord. It was actually 3D Musketeers Discord that they printed it, and they were giving me feedback like it would be better if this were the case, or it'd be better if this were designed this way. And I took those to heart, and so it's great to have a community where I can say, hey, I'm trying to design this thing. I think it's almost there. Why don't you print it and tell me what you think? So yeah, I think that's
absolutely.
fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah, now you get all of us too.
Yeah, yeah,
so
looking forward to
so
it.
it's fun, and we enjoy doing that. Some people are more critical than others, and then of course everybody has their own thoughts and stuff. But I think almost everyone here in chat can agree that you get a free sounding board, and
Yeah,
Kieran Clark says, careful what you wish for.
yeah. Well, I've come to realize that I could take everyone's input, but it's still up to me to determine whether or not it's a valid thing that I need to change. Sometimes I'll get a
Absolutely.
1-star review, and it's just a review that says, "Oh, adhesion was bad." I'm like, okay, well, nothing I can improve on that. So, yeah, it really depends on the input that I'm getting, and whether or not I feel like it would work well for the model. So
Yeah, so that's actually something interesting that's happening with all of these set it and forget it printers. I think that we still have there are things that people don't understand. 3D printing 101, bed adhesion, what infill to use, what filament to use for certain things, how to use supports. So for someone like me who's creating content, we still have content that we can be creating because
yep.
these people don't understand these things. Kevin has a model out that is, well, mine has, it's meant for tools and things. These are tools.
Yes,
So this
those are
is one of
tools.
his rugged organizers. And someone said, every time I print this, it keeps on picking a random color for my AMS. They didn't understand what a color swap was. That everything that they had done was either
Yeah,
pre-painted or they didn't understand. And for me, my nickname is the color swap queen because even before I had a printer that had the M600 command, in Prusa Slicer and things like that, I was doing manual swaps. That was how I
hmm
was adding color to my prints. So it's fascinating that we have all of this technology that allows anybody to 3D print, but they still have to know the basics.
yep.
And so you have to sort of rewind. And I think for you and of course other designers, that's now you're going to have to be equipped with an arsenal of like, this is how you level a bed. This is, your
Yeah,
build plate isn't clean.
yeah.
And it's really interesting because yeah, it's
Well, in my
tech
experience with the
support.
bamboos is I was surprised at how little work was required to get a print going. Like with the ANET A8, that is just bare bones that gets no sensors or anything. Like literally, the thermal runaway was tremendous. But I had to learn how to hone in the leveling manually, and even with the Neptune 4, I was just blown away that I could just create a bed mesh and it just works. Still had to do a lot of tuning with it to hone it in, but with the bamboos, it just works. And so people don't realize the effort it takes to sometimes make sure the prints work correctly.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you did come from the trenches in, of course, what you had for 3D printers and also for design, because I still use Tinkercad for the most part. It serves my needs. I actually use my slicer a lot for tuning in my designs and stuff. I don't do a whole lot of designing, but yeah, it's really interesting where, you've done that evolution. So you can appreciate where that comes from.
Yeah.
So for people that are watching on YouTube, you're using Thangs as your main platform.
Yes, I upload to Things first, and then I'll upload to the other platforms. I'm on Printables. I'm on Colts 3D. I'm also on my Mini Factory. So those others are usually secondary. I use Things for before everything else.
Yeah. And so you find that things, of course, that's where you're able to sort of generate the income to continue to fuel
Yeah,
the hobby at
yeah,
this
it's a
stage.
self-sufficient hobby I've created. I print and then I get more money and then I print some more, and so it's great.
So one thing that people might not have seen in this interview so far is you are actually hilarious. So is Fix'em Dude. So I wonder where the sense of humor, I think it probably has to do with like, the design and all of those sorts of things. It was funny the other day in my stream, someone said, how do you ventilate when you're printing with ABS and ASA? And you said, oh, you just simply take a hose and you take it right from the printer
Hook up a
to
CPAP,
your
just breathe it
yeah,
in. It's good
yeah,
for your character. Um, so I don't think a lot of my elementary school teachers appreciated me. A few years ago, at the age of 33, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and then suddenly my whole life made sense to me. My childhood, everything. I was like, oh, so that's why I'm the way I am. Um, so I just made a lot of ruckus in elementary school. I've always been the one to be a smart aleck and just say funny things. And my challenge has been to kind of rein it in, because there have been a lot of times when I've kind of gone too far or just overdone things. So it's kind of been a learning curve for me to not be as much of a crack up as I am now. So sometimes I have
yeah.
to remind myself, okay, I need to rein it in. So
The
yeah,
neurodivergence in 3D printing is real. Like there's a lot of ADHD, a lot of people on the autism spectrum, and it makes it interesting when you have interactions because there are some people that, of course, like the sense of humor and all that stuff, it makes sense, and then other people they take it so literal that it's
yep,
but definitely being able to like you said, you can work on your printer and then move on to start designing a project, and it is a great place to hyperfixate
yeah,
and use that excess energy, especially when you have a day job that's uh you know that might end up having stresses, and even with
yep,
kids it's a
yeah.
great outlet.
Yeah, it is a good outlet. I think it was last week, there was a day I was up till 4:30 working on some software stuff for a demo that was the following morning. And after that, I took Friday off, and then I even took some time to do some designing uh, after I took that time off, because I was already working overtime Thursday night. So it's a great outlet for sure.
Excellent. So for people that are in Twitch chat, we are very lucky tonight because both Polymaker and Capricorn are doing a very special giveaway. For people that are watching on YouTube, you'll have to tune in to me on Twitch, where we're doing this interview series normally on Saturdays. And also on Mondays, I have a show with Hedgehog Makes, aka Zombie Hedgehog. We have a show called Z and Z. On Wednesdays, I have a show that's specifically with Polymaker called In Printing Color, where I talk about Polymaker filaments and what I'm printing with them, including, beautiful things like this Starlight Mars that I used for Bearded Printer's tome. This is Starlight Comet. Starlight Comet for the planter. I'm trying to remember all of the starlights. There's every starlight possible. Anyway, not just starlight, of course, filaments, and then also for people that are in the stream tonight, Capricorn is doing a giveaway. Capricorn does have amazing kits to of course replace the PTFE, the Bowden tubes on your bamboo printers, and of course any printer that uses Bowden tubes. They also have lots of supplies. And then one thing that they also have is amazing filaments. Aaron at Capricorn has a very good eye for filament and for things like this Emerald Dream and the Nebularium, which I think is perfect for your, as I see Mary Poppins' desk, as they sort through the Nebularium for your water dragon. So you've got lots of choices. And of course, we love all the different filament companies and what they have to offer. I think we're really lucky. Like the that technology is starting to also evolve in the availability of really cool material of filaments, but also in like durable materials. So not things that are fancy. For example, with the starlights, it's also very strong filament that prints well, and of course does lend itself to dragons because this is in the comet again, and you've got that beautiful payoff and majesty of a dragon, but it's a very dense, strong filament too. So yeah, we're super lucky. So you are now, of course, fully indoctrinated in this 3D printing community, at least on the Twitch side of things. One thing that you don't have and that you're going to need for the next event is a maker chip.
Oh, I have one. Hold on.
You have one?
Yeah.
Wow. He has one. And look, I made one.
Look
so
at
you
that.
do have one. Excellent. So you're going to be ready. Now,
Yep.
For anyone that doesn't know, with these events, these rep festivals, and of course all sorts of events, the maker chip has become a thing. Absolutely become a thing. This is a great instant business card that is not just compact, but it's easily displayed. It is fun to print because you can use, we're trying to get everyone to sort of come up with one style per person, like have a uniform style for yourself. But like even 3D Print Bunny, she used her string art. Like that's amazing. There are ones that have fidgets and things like that, but and of course, even with a 0.4 nozzle, you can print your own maker chip and bring it to events, and then people like me can have them collected and on display. So you already have one, so I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. So for the next event, you will need to print at least 500. I guarantee it. You're laughing. You start printing now. Anyone who knows from the last couple of events, we ran out of our own maker chips, and if everything goes as planned, people like K2 Kevin, he's like the maker chip, creator. He'll likely have a table at Rocky Mountain, and we'll work with different companies on having a way for people to collect and display their chips, and keep on doing it. What's really interesting from this last event is the people that aren't designers started designing. Mrs. Dragon, Digital Dragon's wife, she designed her own maker chip. We had Whimsy Crafting. She designed her own maker chip and also designed her husband's Thunder Keys. So it's really interesting that it's given people another outlet. Just like I found, there actually is a Hue Forged maker chip by layer, but it's a really interesting way, and this is one of the ways that we sort of bring people into the community. It's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
So, yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to meeting you at the next event in person. But I think it's been really fun. I'll just drop things here as I do. It's been really fun to see you come in and quietly make yourself known. And I think everyone in chat, and of course everyone in the YouTube comments, is going to be excited to see what comes next from you. So there's going to be links in the description. And yeah, it's been really fun getting to know you. For people that are watching now, we're planning on at least I'm planning on doing some more programming where we might actually have like a discussion panel with designers too. I think that might be something where you all get to know each other a little bit more too. So it's kind of fun. But thank you for joining me for this interview, and looking forward to the next.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure.